Present.
Spoonie, Timothy Spoonie.
Present, sir.
Margaret and Mary. Do we have a Margaret and Mary?
Yes.
Cool.
And the margaritas.
All right. Class here. We're ready. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
This is the time to line up behind your team, to support your team. Have faith in that team.
You know, it's peaks and valleys. You know, it can't always be good. And as I always tell people, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. But when we do know about
House call. Trevon Diggs, pick six. Coming, they see it. Knocked away. Oh, Gregory. Hurts in trouble. 3 Cowboys wrap him up, make it 4. Micah Parsons is unblockable.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday. Y'all know the drill. Pick Six is in the building. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Wednesday. And even Mary has cleared the decks and she's going to be here today. Although maybe some internet issues, you say?
Yeah, it's barely holding on. My dad's trying to fix it, so.
Okay, fair enough. You got the man on. You got the right guy on the attack here to get it fixed up for you. Once again, outside of your internet troubles, glad you're here. Hopefully, the internet gets fixed up really soon. My guy Spoonie, how's your Wednesday going, brother?
Eardrum. 3, 2, 1. Let's get it! Y'all know the rules. We know the rules. We understand the rules. Understand this. Denver, we coming after you.
Okay. All right. Smooth.
Okay.
I told.
All right,
I told you. Oh, he was in his bag.
You did, yes.
In his bag in space. Ain't no mom Spoon tonight. Spoon was in his bag, so we're having a lot of fun. And of course, the first guy to Oxnard, obviously he's still there, Professor. The last guy to leave Oxnard. How's your Wednesday going, brother?
It's going well. Had a little bit of a challenge thrown at me from my youth football team that I'm coaching, which I had to share with them. So quick version of it is our second grade team that my son plays for only has 11 players that signed up. All the other age groups have tons of kids. We don't. So the league approved us for 8-on-8 football. So all the other teams that we play are going to have to play just 8-man football against us because we don't have a roster big enough to have injuries or replacements and all that. So we made a playbook and we practiced it for 4 straight weeks now of 8-on-8 football. Yesterday,
Nice.
Interesting.
the commissioner said, hey, I know you guys are playing 2 games back-to-back in the Jamboree this weekend. Can you guys play 11-on-11 for this Jamboree just so the other teams can practice their offense? And we said, sure, because we didn't really have a choice. So now I have to redo the entire playbook to make it 11 players without confusing the kids. So I spent about an hour and a half doing that today. So I feel like I got my inner offensive coordinator guru on. So I'm ready for football season. And just because we just had the Hall of Fame game last week, I'm wearing the Woody jersey because Woodson needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And I'm going to stand on that hill, fight whoever have to fight for that, get Woody in the Hall of Fame.
That part, I'm not mad at it. It's criminal that our guy Darren Woodson is not in the Hall of Fame. We have to get that thing done. My
Maxwell's
goodness.
comment. That's why
What's
you
that?
pay your
Yeah,
practice
that's-
squad $15 million. Yes,
Oh,
we
well,
don't have a practice squad. If we did, I'd pay them. I would pay them out of my pocket. So now I'm just every time I go to grocery stores, Walmart, Target, I'm like, "How old's your kid? Do you want to play
Right.
football?
Right,
Be
what
my
can you
running
do?
back. I don't care. Just send him out there."
That part. Yeah. So again, issue week, we're in the hump day, right? Middle of the week, guys. We got some news. We got some news. So some things happened from last time we got to talk to everybody. We had some things happen. Something we kind of pounded the table for. Maybe not the answer that we wanted though, but we got a response. Neither here nor there. Let's get to the news and notes and everything. Obviously, we've wrapped up now. Let's be clear, right? They're out of Oxnard. They're headed to Denver. We got some joint practices. We got the preseason game Saturday, which, by the way, me and Spoonie for sure will be rocking with y'all right here on the YouTube channel, giving the live reaction and commentary during the game. Not sure if Mary or O can make it. If they can, I'm sure they'll slide through the building as well. So we're going to have a good time there for sure. And, of course, the Freestyle Friday, I know what's going on that way. The Cowboys made a roster move. I guess we should probably start there with Special Teams Matters, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know the credo for me. Garibay just finally, as we talked about it a ton here, Garibay finally just missed too many kicks, and they brought in some guys. Professor O, who'd they bring in?
So we brought in Biscuits, is the nickname that he has. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's Brett Maher. So he's back. It's kind of a mixed bag. So a lot of fans are holding what he did in 2019 against him, which is understandable because he was really bad and lost us several games that year. There's kind of a running joke in the community that he was better from long distance to short distance. So if you're even, in that 40-yard range, just intentionally jump off sides, false starts, whatever, not off sides, but get false starts so you can get moved back to make it more in his wheelhouse. However, he was pretty good last year for the Saints. Not a ton of kicks, but he was accurate, 88% from field goal last year.
Yeah, 16 to 18, right?
Yeah, 16 of 18.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know that fans are not going to be excited about the name, but what I think you should be, I don't know that excited is the word, but you should at least give credit to the Cowboys because they recognize this kid's just not getting it done. We gave him every opportunity. And hopefully, I don't know if it was a mental block or injury for Garibay. Hopefully, he's able to get another opportunity in the NFL or get into the USFL or whatever it takes to get his career. Because he's a likable kid and does have leg talent. It just wasn't clicking in Dallas. So I'm glad that the Cowboys didn't say, we're just going to ride it out through the end of preseason, into early regular season, and then make a move. They decided to bring in 4 kickers, let them compete, and then decide to go with Maher. So we'll see.
Yeah, Mary, back to the future here with maybe Maher, and hopefully now he can become Money Maher, right? He said he's a different kicker than when he was here the last time for 2 seasons. I think he was 66.7% the 2 seasons that he was with the Cowboys, but 16 to 18 last year, obviously, with the Saints. So they created a problem, right, by playing chicken with Greg Zuerlein. He left. They waited until after the draft, added a rookie, undrafted guy from Texas Tech, Garibay. Didn't get it done, and they bring back Brett Maher. Mary, how does that make you feel that they made a move and the guy that they brought in?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of stated it all the way through how I feel. I hate that they did this long drawn out thing with Zuerlein. And then he was like, nah, forget this, I'm going to Jets. And then they're like, okay, we'll just chill. We don't have a kicker, but let's just hang out until after the draft. And so they get a young guy who doesn't have any kicking experience. And, I said before they signed Lirim that, I hope they bring somebody else. And they did. They brought in Lirim, and they had a competition. They saw that he was struggling. So I commend them on admitting that he was struggling and not waiting till forever to make a decision. So I feel like they also put themselves in this situation. Like, I wasn't a fan of Zuerlein, but like there was still, for them to just, after that situation was not going to happen, for them to just kind of sit on it for a while after that, it's kind of just, it doesn't sit right with me. But I am glad that they at least have made an effort before it got too late to fix the situation.
10-4, and as Professor just said as well, yeah, Winnipeg, right? They were CFL. They went against each other, 2014.
Yeah.
Spoonie. All right, so we Garabay's up out the way. All right. And now it's Lirim and Maher. Are we foregone conclusion that Maher's going to win this thing, or do you think Lirim really has a stake in this now? Now he hung around. He kind of basically, for all intents and purposes, he beat out Garibay. That's what happened. Gary didn't get the job done. He's gone. He's still here. Do you think it's a slam dunk that it's Maher, or do you think Liam has a battle here, or he has a chance in this battle?
No, I think it's gonna be a battle. They don't want to make the same mistake again and just pick one kicker and commit to that kicker all the way. I think they should battle all the way to the end till you get it right this time, because if you get it wrong, you might never get a chance to get another kicker later on. And again, they gave a chance to Gary Bay. I was one of the ones who definitely was pushing for him, but it didn't work out. So by it not working out, the best thing to do is just keep having the two kickers compete with each other until it's all over, and then you make a decision then.
Right.
Don't rush.
And we kind of talked about this on the space pre-show space. And in case you ever want to get some content early before we get over here live, 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday. Me and Spoonie over there hosting the pre-show space as well. Our guy Haley 94 in here talking about is Cobra Kai still out there? He is still out there. They're just in case these two kickers don't work out. I'm to the point here now that I think there's something in between him and the organization. I just don't think they're ever going to call him. So I don't think I'm going to bring up Cobra Kai anymore. This is kind of where I'm feeling. Like at this point, with the opportunities they've had, they could have brought him in long before they got to Gary Bay. Now Gary Bay didn't work. They could have brought him in again. So I don't think the Cowboys front office, or maybe Bones Fossil, they just don't have an interest in Cobra Kai and what's going on. And of course, hey man, for what it's worth, I mean, he was really good here. Right, we understand that, and he just hasn't had a lot of opportunities since he left Dallas. So I just think it's kind of a done deal for Kyle Forbath coming back here to Dallas at this moment.
Can I ask you guys? Did you guys find Will McClay's conversation with I think it was Michael Gelkin who brought it up, but Will McClay was talking about the kicking situation when they were bringing the four guys in. I don't recall him ever being that direct in his response on why they're bringing kickers in. If for those that didn't see it or haven't heard the comment, he said, we're looking for guys that can consistently do their job of putting the ball through the uprights. I mean, as soon as that comment was made, originally there was some thought that maybe they're going to bring these guys in for a look, wait to see how Gary Bay plays in preseason after the first week, and then maybe re-sign them. As soon as I heard that conversation or that comment from him, I was like, no, it's done. Gary Bay is definitely being cut. They're going to sign one of these guys. I can't remember him ever being that direct in a review of a position before. Did that strike you guys at all when you heard that comment?
Mary?
I actually didn't hear that comment, but I mean, yeah, for him to directly say that, I mean that's what we want. We want somebody who can do their job too. So,
Yeah.
I like it.
Spoonie?
Oh yeah, it was crazy because I believe Zach Martin also commented too, saying that we need some field goals to be made out here. It just tells you the urgency from the veterans out there. They're tired. They felt there was that was pretty close enough to advance, but it just didn't work out against the Niners. So we all know the kicking game was an issue last year, and here we are right now. We still haven't figured it out yet. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, here we are. It was a good clip there, from McClay. But I mean, right? I mean, you're a kicker. You got a job, and you need to do it. So we kind of talked about it a lot leading up to this. Gary Bay ended up, which is kind of funny. Like he kind of had his best day right before the other guys came in here, and then boom, he was gone. But at that point, where was he at? Oh, like 51% clip is what he was making.
He was 51% before that day, so he's
right.
He probably ended at like 53%.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing for him that was good is, like you mentioned, his final day in the Mojo Moments, he was good. Dak did the same thing that he did last Saturday where he tried to hype up the crowd, was waving the towel, trying to get people excited for him. And this time he actually made the kick. So at least he got to say, I ended my Cowboys tenure on a good note. And again, hopefully he'll pick up whatever it was, whether it was a mechanical issue or an injury, and get a second shot somewhere else.
Yeah. So, they closed the book for now on kicker. They've closed the book for now. They brought him out here. Now Lirim stays in the paint, and those two guys are going to battle it out. We'll move forward. Another injury update, though. I'm going to pivot to an injury update, I guess I should say. My guy, Will Grier. Y'all know I've been banging the table. Will Grier season. A little bit of a groin issue. Probably the most sad news for me today is kind of understanding now that he's not going to get a chance to play Saturday. Which means get more Nucci games.
Well, it's not in stone yet.
Yeah, they said they're
You
going to
know,
wait
they
till
said
Friday to make
Friday,
that
I think
decision.
they'll
So
reevaluate.
still a chance.
I mean,
hope
it's
so.
not promising, but
Right.
we don't need to see the wide receivers with Ben DiNucci. So hopefully that he will play.
Sidearm Ben, going to get it in. But yeah, hopefully, I would really hope that Greg does get a chance to play, and we keep heating up this backup quarterback competition. So, but yeah, bad timing there with the groin injury. Curse, right? He had a little issue today too, as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
What do you have, O?
Back
his
soreness.
yeah, it's a back soreness. It's from last week. They're just keeping him out for preventative. They said that they think he may be okay to practice against the Broncos tomorrow, so we'll see. Doesn't sound like it's major.
And we had there was one other guy, right?
Diggs,
Trayvon
yes.
set
Diggs.
out.
Right, Dick
They
said
called
that.
it maintenance
Yeah.
days.
But outside of that, again, for the most part, as they're wrapping up Oxnard, the one thing we talked about going in here, you don't want to have major injuries happen. Obviously, James Washington, the biggest injury perhaps, with the broken bone of the foot, out to 6 to 10 weeks. The troubling news with Waletzko on the shoulder, looks like there's surgery to be had there. But outside of that, the Cowboys got through it pretty clean in Oxnard. I think that's a good thing for them to hang the hat on as they're leaving Oxnard now. And they're about to be back in Dallas, and maybe I get a chance to slide up there and maybe do some content and see what's going on when they're those 2 days they got for us over there. Mary, you gonna try to make it out there for any of those 2 days? I know you stay busy. I know.
I was saying, I want to, but the odds of that happening are so slim.
It's in for. All right. Well, that's the news and notes section. Anybody else any for the news and notes? Tuck. Tuck. I just saw Tuck's comment a second ago. Spoonie or Mary, anything else for the news and notes section here?
I think the only thing that's probably worth mentioning from camp for those that haven't had a chance to pay attention this week, Joe Witt did miss due to a personal health matter. They said that he couldn't risk being hit. There hasn't really been much information out there on what that is. So if you guys are religious and want to say a prayer for him, if you want to just send good vibes, well wishes, whatever you want to do, they did say it's not anything too major, and he will be back with the team when they're back in Dallas. But Joe Witt is temporarily out with a personal health matter. So it's probably the only other thing worth mentioning.
10-4. Yeah, great job there. I slipped my mind for a second. Yeah. Prayers and thoughts out there for Witt. And again, good to hear that, precautionary more so than anything, right? Couldn't take the hit, but he will be back there at the Star out there in Frisco, coaching the boys up and getting after it. So excited to hear that for him on the back end. All right. So we got through camp, guys. Well, Oxnard. We got through Oxnard, as we talked about. We kind of did this over on the space. I'm going to pivot here and go through here with y'all before we get to some of the main course here. We're going to talk some offensive line and maybe a particular report that we heard about yesterday and kind of dissect that and what that means. So, but I want to ask y'all this question. What is the thing that going from the outset of going into camp where you're like, oh, I like what's happening here? And then the other thing, offensive line excluded, that you want to see more of as they continue through camp. But in Oxnard, Mary, what was the one thing that you were surprised and really like, oh, this right here? And then number two, I need to see more of what?
You mean just in general, but not the O-line?
Yeah, not the O-line.
I mean, I want to see more creativity from the offense. I mean, I like some of the things that they've been doing. But, I've watched camp for years, as all you have. I've gone to Frisco in person and watched it, and we see them do creative things all through camp, some things that are surprising, and then maybe we'll see a little bit throughout the year when the season starts, but then it kind of doesn't happen anymore. So I want to see that consistently more in camp. I want to see Simi Fioku with more of the ones, since it seems like he's going to have to do that. I know he's getting a lot of time with like seconds and threes, but like if you're going to be taking someone's place to begin the season, I want to see him more with the ones as well. So, offense mostly, Simi Fioku definitely.
10-4. All right, Professor O. One thing you were pleasantly surprised by in Oxnard, and one thing you need to see more of after we got out of Oxnard.
Yeah. So one thing I'm pleasantly surprised at is we signed a punt return specialist, because the conversation just a month ago was, we can't have CD Lamb out there. And they were like, don't worry about that. We're going to put Jalen Tolbert. We're like, whoa, not him either. We don't want him out there. And we have a punt return specialist who looks pretty good. So obviously did big things in the USFL, was dynamic for TCU, and at camp looks really explosive with the ball in his hands. So I'm relieved about that because special teams does matter, as Nick brings up all the time. And that was something I've still been stressed out. And I think a lot of people haven't really, I know people acknowledge that we signed him, but I think in terms of what the ramifications of bringing him in actually means to our team, that means not having a Tony Pollard back there, not having a CeeDee Lamb, not having a Jalen Tolbert back there. I like that because it's going to ensure that there's a greater risk of them staying healthy, which means more to our offense, which is on the field more than special teams. And we're not sacrificing by just throwing anybody out there. We quite literally have somebody who's very good at that one trait. So I like that. What I want to see more of is Mary kind of brought it up with the offense. So right now, shout out to Vach and Skywalker. They were there all week. They said that their estimation was the offense ran pre-snap motion 70% of the time. Didn't matter if it was a run situation, didn't matter if we have twins, didn't matter if we had quads, didn't matter if we were out a bunch. Either way, there was some sort of motion. Mary mentioned it as well. We've seen stuff like that in the past. So is that going to continue? Is that a Mike McCarthy taking more influence of the offense? Is that Kellen Moore having a realization of, I have to be better, I need to get back to what I've done that's been successful in the past? A combination of those, or is it a smokescreen? I don't know. But I like that, so I want to see more of that. So it'll be interesting. We probably won't really know after preseason if that's a reality or not until week 1. But I'm happy about that, but I need to see more of it.
10-4. Spoonie, thing that you were pleasantly surprised about in Oxnard, and one thing coming out of Oxnard you need to see more of?
Yes, my surprise is Dennis the Menace Houston. That's right, Dennis the Menace Houston.
Dennis the Menace. Okay,
it's a good nickname. Good nickname. He's hungry. He's been the talk of the camp against his mini camp, right under the radar, and then all of a sudden now, bam, he's running with the first unit. I'm shocked. I'm surprised. At the same time, I'm happy because he can be the one to come out, have a breakout type of preseason if everything bodes well. You always root to find a gem, a guy who was not drafted. Especially we had guys like Miles Austin. We've seen from other teams like Victor Cruz in the past, and we see how much of an impact they made for their team. And with us with the receiving corps right now, with Gallup's injury and Dwayne Washington getting injured, it's good to see somebody who wants to grab that torch and really make a name for himself on this team. So that's my surprise right there.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of Kelvin Joseph. I want to hear the same type of hype that we're seeing with Anthony Brown, his second year under Mike McCarthy. I want to see that from Kelvin Joseph in his second year. We haven't really heard much yet, but him playing special team, as the PO said last week, for a second round pick, that's not the one thing we do want to hear. We want to hear more. We want to hear him, hey, good coverage against CeeDee Lamb, against the better receivers on this team, and things of that. So hopefully this in preseason we'll definitely see it. Hopefully.
Right. I feel that. I think for me, honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised by the cornerbacks. And I'm going to talk about the depth of cornerbacks, and I'm kind of pivoting away from what you're talking about there a little bit with Kelvin Joseph. But I think Nashawn Wright has showed the work. He's had a good camp, and he's done well. That's surprising. I'm not surprising, but I'm pleasantly happy to see it, I guess I should say. But the surprise is maybe Deron Bland. I mean, he was a draft guy where everyone's like, what, how, why, op, orp, op, like, what is going on? And a lot of the reports, and No C in particular, said he's sticky. That was the terminology he used. He's sticky. And it doesn't matter who he's guarding. He's sticky. So I guess I'm pleasantly surprised about the depth that we may have cultivated here at cornerback with Wright and with Bland. Of course, back to what Spoon said with Wright, I definitely understand that. I think what I want to see more of, I'm going to be a little biased here from my playing days. I need to see more from the second tight end position, guys. I don't think we saw enough during Oxnard. I think I need to see more out of not just McKeon, but obviously Ferguson. I know there was a little bang up there during camp, nothing major with them, but in general, I need to see more because we want to get to that 12 personnel, right? And we know Kellen more likes to cook within those realms. So I need to see more from tight end too. I just didn't see enough in Oxnard, so hopefully moving forward, we will see more from tight end too. So depth at cornerback with Bland and Wright, and I think I need to see more from McKeon and Ferguson when it comes to the tight end position moving forward. Now, purposely, I left off offensive line for this reason. So Brian Broaddus came out and had a report, and he said, hey, man, I talked to somebody, right? And the head coach and the scouts were ready to go take Tyler Smith, and obviously they drafted Tyler Smith. But apparently, maybe Joe Philbin wasn't of the same mindset. So we kind of see how this rotation's happened. I'm not really worried about the unofficial depth chart that they released yesterday, having, McGovern over Smith. However, we've kind of seen the rotation, and at times we've kind of scratched our heads with this guy who's not played, guard in college, and he's going to play guard here in the NFL, and want to see him get after it more and get these reps. We want to see that continuity with the starting offensive line come together. We need to see that, and we're going to backdoor on that. I want to cover this first, and then we'll talk about the offensive line in Oxnard, period. That report to you, and look, we don't know about what's happened behind the scenes and the conversations they have had since that point of the draft to where we are. Is this something or is this nothing, in your opinion? And I'm going to start with Professor O on this one.
So, if you've watched our show, you probably know how I felt about that draft pick. I was not a fan of it. I'd like to know the context of the conversation. There's a lot missing there. When they say they weren't totally on board with it, does that mean that maybe Philbin and the offensive line assistant coach said, hey, I don't like him at 24. I don't know that he's that guy. If he's there in the round 2 or 3, I'm on board with it. Is it that type of conversation, or is it literally saying, no, he's not the type of player I want on our offensive line? Because those are two different things. Maybe he was saying, no, I'm not on board at 24. I think he's a player you could wait on, even though we now know he probably couldn't have, but maybe that's how Philbin and the offensive line coach felt. Or is it the type of player, again, that he doesn't fit with what they're going at? And I could understand that, because keep in mind, a lot of what our issues were on the offensive line last year were penalties. And he's a guy that was heavily penalized in college. So maybe Philbin, knowing I'm probably on the hot seat, I won't be here after this year if I don't have better continuity on the offensive line, if I'm not able to get more of a push in the run game with my offensive line, and I'm not able to get the penalties down, I'm probably gone. So I could understand him maybe having that mindset. And again, I'm just speaking this out there. I don't know if this is the logic or not. Maybe saying, I don't want a guy who had more penalties and less games last year than Connor had, because Connor was one of the big issues we had on the offensive line last year with penalties. So maybe that's where the context is coming from. I don't know. But to me, it definitely is I don't want to say it's a big deal, but it's definitely a deal. It's not a little deal. It's not insignificant, because not just him, but apparently the assistant offensive line coach also felt the same way. So I don't know why they felt that way, or if the assistant offensive line coach is a Philbin guy and that's why, but it's interesting nonetheless to me.
Okay. Mary, big deal, no deal? Does it mean something to you? Is it something that's happening in camp? Did you see maybe you're tying some lines together? What do you think, Mary? But you got to unmute yourself.
I didn't put too much into it, just because kind of what Matt alluded to, there's so much we don't get in context, and that doesn't mean that they're, treating him differently in practice or whatever. I think a lot of fans' emotions are stemming from the unofficial depth chart that came out, and he's not starting at guard right now. But I mean, it's unofficial. It's not even the first preseason game yet. So, we'll see what happens for the rest of the off season and the practices and the preseason games, and see who does better. But I'm not going to put too much stock into it right now.
Okay. Spoonie, big deal, no deal? Do we have a deal?
For what P.O. said, it does kind of like shift me a little bit, because not a lot was put into it. But I will say this. I'm just hoping that this comment was alluded to before the draft, some way. When they did talk about him, they observed him, and hopefully that part right there, and that's not about right now. And again, I had spoken about before. Joe Philbin does have a petty past. When he was a head coach of Miami Dolphins, I go to that Hard Knock. It's a show, but real life decision making does happen on that show. And just real quick with the Ultra Cinco situation, it was something very light, but when they had a meeting with him and the head coaches and the team captains, they always voting for Chad Ochocinco, and you could just tell by the facial expression. Sometimes you just got to read the room, and when you read Joe Philbin, it was like he was just being petty, and that's been the one thing I felt about him once he came to the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully he's not petty, and let's be honest. Sometimes with coaches, they rather coach the guy that they like and not the guy that the organization had put in it, to start. That does happen. Again, you got to read the room, but again, I'm hoping this is something that they discuss in the beginning phase and not right now.
10-4. I'm torn on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm torn on it. In one instance, I do think it's a big deal because I'm looking how they've handled it into our third week now of camp, right? And I understand the idea of, hey, we're not going to hand the rookie the job, right? And you got to earn the job and whatnot and get to those things. And you play with that for a week, maybe a little week and a half. Okay. We're about to get the joint practice and we're in week 3 and we're still doing these kinds of things. I don't like it. It rubs me the wrong way. And again, we are not privy to these conversations they've had behind the scenes. That's the draft time of what we heard and what we, the report was from Brian brought us. But I'm just kind of stacking and looking at how things are moving in camp and what's going on. And at a certain point with this offensive line, like who are going to be your guys week 1, it's time to get to those guys now. They already talked about how much these guys are going to play in preseason. They're going to put a lot more stock into the joint practices. So again, some of these questions will get answered in these joint practices that they're doing. But I'm torn. At one point, I'm like, maybe it's not a big deal. But the 3 weeks in, we're still playing this game with Connor McGovern. And let's be honest about Connor McGovern. Not that he doesn't have the right to become better. I talk about that a lot, about guys young in their career, obviously year to year, they can become better. But we do have a pretty good size of at right guard. He's pretty solid. At left guard, it's a mixed bag. And we're seeing this in camp so far and what's happening with him. So, look, he's on the last year of his deal. Let's be honest with that as well. He's in the last year of his deal. For all intents and purposes, I don't think anyone here would say they're going to bring him back after this season. And we know that Tyler's going to be the future. So I don't know. It smells fishy, guys. I think is where I'm at with it. With the report and how we've seen it's worked so far in Oxnard, to me, it seems a little fishy. I don't like it. It needs to be cleared up. And the one thing I will say at the end of it is this. Mike McCarthy, I know it's your guy. And if there's any kind of tomfoolery, if you will, afoot here, based off they didn't want him or whatever the case may be, it's your job as the CEO of this coaching staff to take care of that. That's the business. So hopefully we do see that get cleaned up, and we'll kind of move around from there and see, what happens. But I don't like it. But that's that report. We'll table that. Let's get to this offensive line in general. Kind of the timeline in Oxnard, right? Before the pads came on, it was bad, right? The pads came on, it kind of got a little bit better. Okay, and then it kind of went left again. And then got to the Saturday live stream of practice. And you had, lines from our guy, as, we all love Big Nate, Nate Duden. And he's out here like, hey, guess what? Look, don't worry about Steele right now. And because the offensive line wasn't doing well, but he's a gamer. He don't practice well, but he's a gamer. But it's at a certain point, though, we need to see something in practice as well, too. And of course, we had some people on the space that was like, well, he's getting beat by Paul, excuse me. He's getting beat by Micah. He's getting beat by D-Law, and Micah will beat anybody. And I understand it, but at a certain point, bro, you got to win. You're starting the NFL now. You have to win.
And you got to win at some point. You shouldn't be getting beat on every rep, every single one.
Not every team has a Micah, obviously, but a lot of teams have guys that are good pass rushers. You're going to face a good pass rusher every single week. So it's not – I hear fans say that too, and they're like, well, we got to excuse him. He's going against Micah, who's all-world. Okay, that's true. I'm not discounting that. But every team has a good pass rusher, and he's going to face them. And when you hear that somebody said that he went against Micah specifically 9 times and lost 3 of the reps, so he won 6. Okay, cool. So he won more than he lost. But think about that. If he went against Micah in a game, 9 snaps and gave up 3 sacks, is that a good game? No. If he went against Micah 9 snaps and gave up a sack and 2 tackles for a loss. Is that a win for him through that game? No. So if he's losing 33% of his snaps, that's not good. And every team has a player, not Micah level, but a good pass rusher, and he's going to face them. So you want to see him win more than that.
Yeah.
That's possible hits to Dak, possible turnovers, possible taking us out of field goal range, putting us in long situations, like in a real game situation. Like, that's terrible thinking about it.
And right, man, and right what you said there, Mary, and so that's what you talked about in the space on that was you're playing with Dak's health at this point if you're not going to get this thing situated.
And see, I'm going to take it back a little back.
Okay.
Eric Williams. Right,
you went way back. Okay,
way back.
Okay.
Way back.
Back in the time.
Yeah, young man, wasn't a first round pick. You had to get in there and get right. And the game against, rest in peace, All Pro, one of the tops, Reggie White. He made his name how he blocked Reggie White. Following week, they put it right there in Sports Illustrated. I remember. I forgot it wasn't Barcelona at the time. It was something else, but got that magazine. This kid here, Eric Williams, made a name, all right? A big name. You're not gonna, like P.O. says, every team has a top pass rusher, right? Everybody has. Just like me and Mary said, but this is Dak's health. If the guy's not ready now, I don't want to hear that we play against Michael Parsons. Fine. Doris Armstrong, is he worldwide? Is he a top pass rusher? He's losing against him too. At the same time, at the end of the day, you basically want to see win or loss. Win or loss. You win some, you lose some. You want to see a mix of that. But when you keep hitting things, you losing the whole time. What happens? It is a race for concern. And who we blame that on? Is Mike McCarthy? Is Stephen Jones going to blame the coaching staff for not coaching still up? At the end of the day, you made the decision, and I'm pretty sure they had a meeting about should we decide to let Lyle Collins go and give it a steal. Now, Steele has this. He has it. He has the shot. He has the chance. But when we hear about, in camp, he's not a good practice player. Nah, there's no such thing. Listen, we all may not be good in taking tests. I've heard that. But you got to.
That's what they said that about Tim Tebow. He was a good practice player, but he was a gamer.
Come on, you can't keep doing that.
Okay. And look, that's on Steele's part.
Right.
But we're not even talking about Tyler, Professor O, Biadish, not Badaz, but Biadish.
Good job.
Yeah, there you go. Getting coached up here in the back lanes, apparently. Sorry. But this offense line in general, and when they came through, right, and they got Waletzko, and they came out, man, he's going to be the swing tackle. We're not signing a veteran. They had to know about the shoulder, right? And now here we are. And they haven't done anything on that either. Here we are with that. We're already hearing about Ball and maybe lack of strength, even though he's had good moments, right? But it's not good enough. And I asked this question before, like, let's be honest. Who is going to be the start? Who's going to play through the preseason game? We know Tyron Smith's not going to play. How long is Steele going to play? All right, so there's going to be Ball in the who's of whoever. Affiliating, whatever his name, Collins, right? From
Avion.
Texas him. I don't even know his first name.
Avion,
from Texas A&M Commerce, right? I just, like, you need to add something there. And I think what's frustrating here is we all talked about this leading into camp. And we talked about the number one thing we had to see is, this offensive line and how they come together and how they're going to gel. Oxnard was, look, for lack of depth at other positions that we talked about, offensive line to me, I'm not trying to be negative. Yeah, I'm not trying to be negative. But the offensive line did not get the kind of work they needed to get done in Oxnard, in my opinion. So then I started thinking about the report. Okay. And then I started thinking about something else that matters when it comes to football. When a new coach comes in, you take a little bit of time before you see what they really are. And we talked about this a lot in this offseason about, I asked the question, which is the real Joe Philbin? Year one Joe Philbin that we thought and gave him a lot of praise? Or is it year two Joe Philbin? Like, hey, man, I don't know what's really going on here. And I said, we need the real Joe Philbin to stand up. And then some clicked in the back of my head. I was like, oh, yeah. They still had some rub from the previous offensive coaching staff on how they played that year, even with all the injuries or whatnot. And the further you remove from that, whoever's coaching them, for better or worse, it goes up and down. You kind of see who they are. I think it's a problem for Joe Philbin. I'm gonna say this right now.
Mhm.
I think it's a problem for the Dallas Cowboys and Joe Philbin with this offensive line. And everyone had their fun on Twitter and everything. Whenever Washington went and fired their defensive line coach, I'm gonna say it right here, right now. I think right now the Cowboys should fire Joe Philbin. No cap. I think they should fire Joe Philbin right now because this offensive line and what happened in Oxnard is, Mary, I'm gonna steal a term that you use. It's a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense. It's not good. I don't even care. Forget the left guard switching back and forth and whatever's going on with Tyler Smith and with Connor McGovern across the board and how this thing looked. And look, it's no discredit. Look, it's no discredit to what our defense is. We expect our defense to be really good this year.
Mhm.
To me, it's not good enough. For me, I would say, hey, it's not good enough. We just got rid of Gary Bay. Joe Philbin, I know you're my guy and everything. This ain't working, and we're going to get somebody else in here. That's where I'm at right now with the offensive line because I think it matters that much about what's going on this season. I'll spin the block. Would you go ahead and fire Philbin now, or am I overreacting? Whoever wants to take it.
I mean, I was
Go
talking
ahead,
about
Mary.
this earlier with somebody in Star Gang, and I was telling them, yeah, I mean, it should have happened in the off season. Like it should have happened before now, in my opinion.
Okay.
So, I mean, like you said, it was not good last year. We saw, just even if you look at the playoff game, I mean, even if you just look at that one piece of it, like they got completely bullied. It was ridiculous what they did. I mean, that in itself to me is enough. But I mean, you can look at most of the year where they struggled, they had issues, and it was insane. So I don't really understand why he wasn't let go. I don't understand why they continue to struggle in practice. And I mean, I think they're looking at it like, oh, our defense is just really good. And it's Micah and it's DeMarcus Lawrence. I think they're looking at it like that. But I think that's going to really come back to bite them.
Yeah. Professor O, am I overreacting, Professor O?
Ultra Cowboy.
Ultra Cowboys comment is hilarious, by the way. If you don't mind pulling that up.
I just saw it.
Listen, can we let it out a little bit?
Wait. What am I missing here?
I would.
It's not that far up.
Okay.
It's a little
Also, you
further
can't.
up.
I'd fire this one. Is that where I'm at?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was laughing
Okay.
at.
So I was with Mary. I wanted him gone this offseason. So I'm just going to throw that out there because maybe that impacts my decision here. I definitely think you should let him go now. And I know people are saying, well, we're close to the season, timing, blah, blah, blah. The Commanders just did it. And I'm not using them as, well, they did it, so surely we have to. I'm just using them as a recent example of a team saying, hey, the guy we have is not the guy, we need to make a move. We just did that at kicker this week. We just said the guy we have at kicker is not helping us. We need to get rid of him. You have Terrence Steele that we made a huge bet on. Keep that in mind. We had Collins. There was no reason cap-wise, because even if we had Collins $10 million on the cap, we would still have cap space.
Right.
We didn't have to make that move. The front office and Philbin presumably said, we can win with Terrence Steele. We don't need Collins. Let's save the cap space. So we already made a bet on him. And we, according to our draft board, we made a bet on Tyler Smith because he wasn't the highest guy on our board. He was 16th. Lewis Seen, who was 14th, was on the board, and we passed up saying we need the offensive lineman.
They went
which
positional
I'm okay
value.
with. They went with
Yeah.
positional value. So cool. You made 2 gambles on the offensive line this year, and now it's coming out that your offensive line coach and his assistant both are not on board with the guy that you took. Yes, you should make that move. And keep in mind, last year, Mark Colombo was the offensive line coach of the Giants. They fired him in the season. Teams do that all the time. That's not even a Commanders and Giants terrible examples. Those are divisional opponents who said, the guy we have isn't helping us, right or wrong, we have to make a move. So, yes, right now when you're still in preseason and you still have time to bring somebody on board, you should do that if you have a guy that you don't think is going to be a long-term fixture of your coaching staff in the first place, and he's not on board with the guy that is going to be a long-term fixture of your offensive line. Yeah, you should pull the plug right now. Not after this preseason game, like tomorrow. They should get a new offensive line coach.
All right, Spoonie. Everyone, okay? Are we all overreacting, or are you on board, Spoon?
Listen, I didn't even think about it. Y'all said it. I'm down with it. Fire him right now. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's get with it. I mean,
Around the board, let's go. Around the board, line it up. Around the board.
Listen, I know
Everyone says, "Get him
sometimes I
outta
can be the
here."
odd. I know a lot of times I can be the odd man out, but this conversation right here, oh no, I got nothing for Philbin. I mean, everybody make great points. Everybody make great points, and again, if you're not doing your job the right way, and it can affect the season, of course, hurt Dak Prescott. Yeah, you have to get the Band-Aid off, and go after somebody. Bring back Mark Colombo. You know, he has done well with us in the past here. You know, if that's one of the options. But we have to get it right now. Of course, that will be up to Mike McCarthy. We all know him and Philbin has been with years together, but Mike McCarthy will have to do that. You have to find it to do that. You can't make excuses, man, because your job's on the line, possibly.
Keep in mind, our job should be very attractive for other offensive line coaches too. Mm-hmm. You're telling the guy, hey, you have a chance to coach for the Cowboys. You have Tyler Smith for some amount of games. You have Zach Martin. You have Tyler Smith. You have multiple pieces to build around. Like, you should be able to attract an offensive line coach here.
Hey, I like
Duke's not going to come.
He's not going to do it. Yeah, he's not. Yeah. He's not going to do it, but hey, I'm with it though. I mean, I'd be with it though for sure.
Yeah,
definitely not going to happen. And again, it's just a totalitarian look. We never sit here and want to campaign for people to get cut or lose their job or different things. Performance is everything, and we do it in that realm. We're not out here just he's a bum. It's not that. Like Oxnard showed us, this offensive line isn't coming together. Now, can we say some of this is because of how the front office and that brass handled constructing this offensive line? To a certain extent, sure. To a certain extent, because you let Collins go, and what did you do in free agency? Right? And for what it's worth, you let Connor Williams out the building too. You didn't bring him back for what it's worth. And then you went to the draft and got a couple of guys, and you went through it, and here we are. And then you kind of butt up with that, and you kind of look at what's happening in camp, and then you get over here to what's going on with the report from Brian Broaddus about how he wasn't on board with the pick. At a certain point, man, you got to flush this thing and move forward. And we haven't got a chance to get to Tyler yet, Biadasz. We haven't had a chance to talk about him adding weight and what he's done so far in camp. And guess what? He's had him for 3 years. Where's the development of Biadasz here underneath Joe Philbin? I just think those are credible questions to ask about his job performance. Look, Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, I'll coach him up. That's fine. I can sign me up. I can coach them. They'll be just fine. No worries. But these other people that they have to bring in, the two Tylers, and now given the job as Spoonie was talking about earlier to Steele, it has to happen. That's 3/5 of your offensive line, and you need it to happen. And for me, I just look at Oxnard, man, and I'm just like, man, this ain't it. It's just not it, and it's very scary. Forget just talking about Dak and his health or whatever, the run game and how everyone wants us to run the ball more and do those kinds of things, right? Well, if you're not blocking it up properly, and you're not getting things done, it's what's going to happen with the run game now, So I just, the more and more I thought about it, and we did the space last night, and I talked about it a lot, and I slept on it. And like I said, to a certain extent, I do feel better about the report and because of the context and trying to think about it. But I just think the totality of what we saw in Oxnard, you got to pull the plug and do something, in my opinion. So that's official. Get rid of Joe Philbin. The movement's real now over here at Pick Six. We're getting him up out of here. We need to get somebody in here because if this offense line doesn't come together, it could be a very long season, man. Just a very long season. I think Mary's entered done.
Can I ask you guys an impromptu question? So
go for it.
For those that don't know, Mike McCarthy made a very interesting comment about Kelvin Joseph. Spoonie alluded to it earlier on Mike McCarthy using the verbiage that Kelvin's doing some great things on special teams and is a dynamic special teams guy, and directly referenced CJ Goodwin saying this is an iron sharpening iron situation. Mm-hmm. So I understand that when you have a second round pick, you want him to compete for a roster spot. I think all Cowboys fans will acknowledge the 3 guys ahead of him on the depth charts, and we're not even arguing if Wright's ahead of him or not because Wright's had a strong camp, but the top 3 have cemented their spots in the roster. If that's all he becomes is a dynamic special teams player, Is there anything that he could do from a special team standpoint to make you feel good about him still being a second-round pick? So like, let's just say, best case scenario, he becomes a Matt Slater, where he's like a perennial Pro Bowl caliber special teams player, or a Devin Hester, who's obviously he's not going to return. But let's say he went that route.
Sure.
I think, barring him being a Devin Hester in the return game, if all he ever is a dynamic special teams player, it's a terrible draft pick. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Yeah, no, I completely agree. The fact
Okay,
that
wait, you're talking about Kelvin?
Yes.
Or who are you talking about? Kelvin?
Yeah, Kelvin
Kelvin.
Joseph.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm in and out. So
Yeah, you got. I know.
I agree. Second
It's
round
okay.
pick
You
player
understand,
wins.
And of course, and
Yeah.
for better or worse, it's almost like the taco pick, right? Because Watt was on the board, and that's always the comparison.
Mhm.
And the problem here with Kelvin here in Dallas is, guess what? Asante Samuel Jr. was on the board, so that comparison is
Samuel,
always
yeah.
is always going to be there. But even taking out that comparison out of it, I mean, look, a second round pick to be look, if he's Devin Hester, that's different to me. I will say that's the one caveat. If he's going to be Devin Hester and that kind of weapon in returns, I can live with that in the second round pick, to be honest with you. But anything, if he's going to be just CJ Goodwin 2.0, man, nah, bro, not for a second round pick. You just can't do those things. I'm sorry.
Right. And again, we're not saying that's all he'll be. I'm just asking the question, if that's what he's going to be this year, so 2 years of being a special teams guy, we'll see. Obviously, one injury changes things dramatically. But right now, that's what he's going to be again this year. Is there anything, barring being a Devin Hester, that makes that pick, if that's all he becomes, worth it? I don't think there is.
Yeah.
Even being a Matt Slater, not in the second round.
No, not in the second round. And, you know, the puzzling, I won't say puzzling, the frustrating thing, when he had moments where he had to play last year, the talent's there. Like, you could see the talent when he had opportunities and he had to play and get out there. But the mentality and what it means to be a professional has to match what his talent is. He can't get by just on talent. This is the NFL. The door's open for him, though, and it's unlocked. It's wide open. He just has to walk through it, and we just don't know if that's going to happen for him or not. But, you know, there's still time in camp, and we'll let things kind of progress out and see. I'm campaigning for him because of him walking through the door and being great. That's what's best for business for the Cowboys. But, boy, it's a mixed bag.
No,
It just is.
It just like I said at the space earlier, he has all the talents and everything. It's just him being focused. Not to go deep into his off season, but the thing is, you have to now. If you're gonna have to put it behind you as best you can. I would never ever judge anybody for going through something, because mentally, but mentally you got to be right. You got to be right to want this. You got to be right to focus on this one thing. No matter what you're thinking about. And you know, come Saturday, he's gonna be one of the ones in the spotlight. Regardless of his competition, who's in front of him, we want to see him play well. If you're playing against the third or fourth team, that's fine. We want to see good things from you. That's how you're gonna that's how you climb the ladder. And on the depth chart, you got to just keep performing. And you know, him in preseason, like just PO just said. I mean, again, if you're Devin Hester, all right. Listen, Devin Hester is in my book, he's a Hall of Famer in my opinion, even though he make it, but. You know, still in Noah, there was plans for him. And we all know, just think about the future. If Anthony Brown has a year like he did last year, guess what? That is, you got to add him to the list of guys to pay, unless somebody behind him who's ready to step up. And again, competing for your job will always make you better. Kelvin, you a second round pick, and then Sean Wright, what was your fourth or fifth? Ron Bland, the same thing. Those guys are hungry. They want it. You got to want it more. You've been on this team longer. Got to want it more, and you just got to focus. Put everything behind you. Make that star.
Yeah.
The most important thing that you're thinking about.
Right.
I don't feel like right now. I don't want to say the book's not closed on him right now. He has. Right. He will have plenty of opportunities this year because the Cowboys, like all NFL teams, play nickel and dime. He will have snaps where he gets on the field. I know that the Parcells, verbiage out there of the analogy that he uses, you got to give 3 years. That's not really true anymore. Players are successful quicker now than ever. Quarterbacks are succeeding year one. Wide receivers used to be a position you're like, if I get 600 yards out of a first-round pick rookie, great. No, these guys are having 1,400-yard years now. You look at Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like, players are, because of how heavily the pass game is prevalent in the NFL or in college, they're having quicker succession in the NFL than they ever have before. So I don't need him to be a all-pro. I don't need him to win a starting position this year, but I very much need him to show something when he's on the field and be an impact player to show, hey, next year when Anthony Brown's contract's up, we don't have to worry about cornerback. We got our guy. Next year when Jordan Lewis's contract's up, we don't have to worry about him. We got our guy. We can re-sign one of the two and slide in Kelvin Joseph, or we need to completely reassess the cornerback room. I don't know. So I just wanted to bring up the special teams comment because when you have a second-round pick in year 2, think about Simi. Simi is a guy that at camp, a lot of people, myself included, were not super excited about year 2 versus year 1, and he was a 5th-round pick last year, if I'm not mistaken, and he's taken a huge step up this year. I haven't seen Kelvin take a huge step up. If he's just slightly better than last year or incrementally better, okay, you got better, but I need a bigger stride or bigger jump than that. So I'm really excited about preseason because he's a guy that I'm going to be watching like an eagle. Like I need to see, not an eagle, a hawk, whatever bird you want to use that has bird's eye view. Like I am laser focused on Kelvin this preseason. I want to see him show something that makes me say he's not just a special teams guy. He's an actual cornerback.
Yeah, caca. Okay.
Yeah.
Do your thing. Can't believe you didn't go with Hawk. You're an Atlanta Hawks fan. Why didn't you go with Hawk out of the gate?
Because the eagle,
dropped the eagle.
Bird's
It
eye
happens.
view. I don't know.
No, bird's eye view. Oh, there we go. You get that clear eye view, bird's eye view. I like it. Poor Mary and her internet. I do want to put a bow real quick. I do want to put a bow real quick on the offensive line, guys. I'm sorry. I got to go back to it real quick because the impromptu question.
My bad, Scott.
You know, oh, there it is. Yeah, tomatoes. Boo.
It's fair.
Okay.
My bad. I apologize.
It happens. Yeah.
Bad speaking there. Sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. But to put the ball on the offense line, we're going to pivot because you're talking about, with Kelvin. I do want to talk about these wide receivers as well too, and as we're just kind of recapping what happened in Oxnard this training camp is Philbin's here, whatever. Look, right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared are you about this thing coming in hot for week 1 with this offensive line currently after Oxnard? How worried are you about this offensive line on a scale of 1 to 10, Spoonie?
10.
10, all the way up.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, where you at?
I'm like a 5.
Okay.
I'm concerned, but I'm not super concerned just because while we're seeing the first team offensive line struggle, we're still not really seeing the first team offensive line struggle because we're seeing other guys inserted with that group because that's what they do at camp. So when we're watching it saying that was a bad rep, the offensive line got abused, there's Josh Ball out there instead of Tyron Smith. There's Connor McGovern in different reps when Tyron's out there and for Tyler Smith at guard. So we're seeing different matchups or different mixed bags of the offensive line unit than what we're going to see week 1. And it's worth mentioning Tampa Bay has been crushed with injuries so far on their offensive line. Now, some of these guys have had just cramps and have been able to come back, but they've been hit repeatedly with the offensive line. I feel more concerned if I'm a Tampa Bay fan with their offensive line week 1 protecting Tom Brady than I do with Dak because Dak looks more mobile than ever right now. He looks really sharp right now at camp, and we know that Zeke is an asset in the pass protection. We know we're going to see more 12 personnel, or at least that's what we're under the presumption we're going to see more of. So I'm not terrified at offensive line right now. I don't feel good about it. Like years past, I would have been like a 1 or 2, and I think Spoonie would have been the same. But this year, I'm a 5. Last year, week 1, I would have probably been like a 3. Even having Zach Martin out because of how much we had around him, I wouldn't have been overly worried, and I wasn't, even though we went against Tampa Bay's tough defensive line. I don't think Tampa Bay's defensive line this year is as good as last year, and I'm not totally panic mode, but I don't feel good about him either, so 5.
I'm at a 7. I'm just at a 7. I don't know if I'm buying the center position yet, and that was a big worry. And yeah, I know we heard a lot about this is going to be an open competition. I'm not really sure there's been an open competition at center, to be honest. I'm not really sure there. I'm worried about right tackle, and I don't know what the hell's going on left guard. There's time to be had and it's cool. Like, we're going to rest some of the older guys, and we haven't seen at times the full tilt what the starting five is. But we're 3 weeks in the camp. Like, we should start seeing these guys get some work together, whoever their starting five is going to be. And this is in the pit of my stomach. I'm just starting to feel like last year. Remember how they were doing, like, they would rotate tackles during the game or guards or whatever. And I'm just kind of seeing the same kind of stuff happening here in camp. To a certain extent, you had to do those things, but also you want to get continuity with the starting five, and we're just not getting that. And the fielding thing I'm torn on as well, and what's going on there. So I'm not all the way to a 10, Spoon, because of the president, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith for however long he's healthy. I'm at a 7. And the other side of the 2, why I'm worried and why it's at a 7 for me, I'm kind of splitting the difference between Professor O here and Spoonie between the 10 and the 5, is if you lose one of the tackles, it's ball right now. I don't know how that's going to look. Now, obviously, we hope they're going to stay healthy. You know, we're not hoping for no injuries during the game, but man, that's worrisome to me. And the lack of depth in that realm when it comes to tackles. So I'm splitting the difference. 5, 7, 10. That's where we're at.
Can I ask you guys a question really quick?
Yeah,
so
go for it.
Tyler was a concern last year, especially early in the season. He seemed to play better as the season went along and he got more experience. I'm higher on Tyler now than I was last year. Like, I feel like he has made progress in camp. I think he's been pretty good so far. So if we're talking about just specifically the center position, do you feel better about center right now with the, I don't want to say depth because we have Farniak
Right.
and
Lindstrom.
or MP, whoever potentially wins out if they go 3 deep at center. Do you feel better about center position now versus last year, or is that still a concern for you guys?
I mean,
for me,
go ahead, Spoon.
for me, I'm still concerned because it's not. We haven't seen anything really yet. We're just hearing, having a good practice. Again, we have two aging vets who are still top of the game, and you got 3 unproven between the guard, the center, and the right tackle position. We still don't know anything yet, but it's just kind of scary. But again, PO, when it comes to the center position, I'm still the same. So, and I see, I see a change.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact he gained weight, right, and be a little bit more stout at the point of attack. The Saturday scrimmage looked like he was calling some of the protection, so that's a bonus from where he was at last year. But it's kind of been the ebb and flow. Like, this offensive line hasn't been consistent enough in training camp, and he's had some good days, and there's been some reports that he's been better than what they saw in camp last year. But he's also had some bad days, and I'm not going to bring up the Gallimore beating him in the little drill, but I mean, this one little stab, whatever. So yeah, I'm indifferent. I think there's other things to be worried about for now. I'm not buying, but I'm not panicking at center. But I did want to see the actual perhaps battle, and I just don't think we really got it. But maybe he's playing that well. Maybe that's what's happening. And we're going to find out. And that's the great thing about the joint practice and what's happening. We're going to get a lot of questions answered here pretty quickly. And I'm excited about that side of things because we get to go beat up on a team that's not in our jersey and work against different people. And we're going to see some things happening. So a lot of these things that we're concerned about, we're going to get some answers one way or the other, which is good. I do want to touch on the Oxnard things that happen. The wide receiver position. Cowboys front office may be right in the idea of not jumping and going out after James Washington went down with the injury and saying, hey, we're going to see what these guys have. And the competition here might have breeded some things. And I kind of go back to our show with Kyle Humans back on Freestyle Friday about a week and a half ago. And Spoonie, you asked a great question to him about Vasher, Simi in particular. There was a third guy there. But I'm going to talk about those 2 guys real quick. Because the answer that he gave was, yeah, Vasher had a great catch, right? But he's kind of even keel. He's not really trending up or down. But he said Simi Fioku was trending up. And that was kind of against the grain from what a lot of the reports were kind of coming out and what was happening. And since that time to here, wow. And Professor, you talked about this and asked this question in our group chat earlier today, and I wasn't sure where you're going. And he was like, hey, who's kind of like shush all of a sudden? And that was TJ Vasher, right? From where he was to what's happening now. And the guy who's extended from that point has been Simi Fioku. So just within that realm, we know about the Houston and what's happened with him. Were they right to wait this thing out, right? It looks like the competition and the work with Dak is giving them more oomph in the room, and you feel better about the wide receiver core now than maybe what you did maybe 2 weeks ago?
For me,
yeah, go ahead.
For me, I want to see these guys score some touchdowns. I really want to see these guys beat some coverages. You know, of course, you know, the quarterback got to be good for we know how preseason is. It's very tough, but I want to see I want these guys to start separating from each other. I want to start being that this guy is really going to make it, and we're going from there. And now you give him more to be out there. And that's just really it as of right now. You know, Simi Fehoko is a physical specimen. Speed, size, he has it all. He worked as he stood by during the offseason, worked out with Dak. You know, that's commitment right there. And you know, as Kyle Yeomans came on and said that he was trending up, it's a great thing to hear. But we want to see it, and like BJ, just like you said, now we got a scrimmage on Friday against Denver. We want to see some highlights up against their corners. I don't care who it is. I just want to see it. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different when you're practicing against another team than yourself, because you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. And it is a great test. You know, a lot of jabs going to happen, a lot of, you this, you're that, trash talk. I want to see reactions. I want to see who you are that day that I know I could count on every Sunday. That's it.
Yeah. Are we buying they had a right to let these young guys battle it out here in Oxnard before making a move? If they even make a move now, Professor O?
I'm buying it. Yeah, I'm buying it. So I'm at a weird spot in my fandom where I try to keep things. I understand that there's gray areas. You don't need to be black and white. You need to be fluid in your opinions and be able to admit, yes, Anthony Brown is better than I thought last year. A lot of Cowboys fans struggle with that reality. But if you're a fan, you should root for your team to be successful. And when players do make strides and get better, admit you're wrong. If a player does exactly what you hope them to do, admit you're right. That's fine. It's okay to do both things. So yes, I would be absolutely lying to you. And in fact, if you want to watch our former videos, which I encourage you to do if you missed them, I specifically mentioned and in OTAs and minicamp that what I was frustrated with Simi is the chat was he was getting more separation. He was being he looked more explosive. He looked more like the guy we wanted him to be last year when we drafted him, fans were excited about, but he wasn't finishing the play. I specifically mentioned 2 opportunities. One, the ball bounced off his hands, became an interception. And another opportunity where he beat Anthony Brown on a double move and dropped the ball in the end zone. And like, you have to start capitalizing. Like, your roster spot is not secure when you're a 5th round pick. You have to start making the plays. You can't be the guy that's all potential, because at some point potential doesn't matter. It's all about reality.
Right.
Noah Brown and Simi Fehoko were 2 guys that I was not excited about at camp whatsoever. Right now, I'm thrilled. Like, I'm so happy to say I've been wrong so far. They've been lighting it up at camp every single day. They're not having a big splash day and making a TJ Vasher incredible catch that goes viral. But every single day, they're beating people in coverage. The route running looks sharp. They're beating people in contested catches. They both look really good. It's also an interesting dynamic, since the question from Nix was, were the Cowboys right to not make a move with the Washington injury? I definitely think the Cowboys were right now. Yes, they should not have made the move, even though the fans wanted them to react. It's going to be really interesting, though, because at some point, whether that's week 3 or 4 when Gallup returns, whatever that timetable looks like, what are they going to do with Washington is now becoming a question, where before it was, we need to make a move until Gallup and Washington return. Now the question is, assuming Gallup returns before Washington, which he should based on the injury timeline, what do they do with Washington? Because they haven't made a move. He's not cut. He's not on the injured reserve list because they don't want to lock him down for the entire season. So they'll have to make a decision week 1. But Simi is trending up. Noah's trending up. Houston is something that fans are chatting about a lot, but Kyle Yeomans mentioned it. He's trending up, but not at the same rate that Simi is, or not at the same rate that Noah is. And then Vasher's kind of making plays here and there. So it's a really interesting room, because we kind of know what we have in CD, or at least think we know what he's going to do next. We know, or at least think we know, what Gallup's going to look like when he returns, and we have all the tea leaves on what Tolbert's going to look like. The rest of the room was kind of a big mystery, and as soon as Washington got injured, everybody panicked, myself included, like, the ceiling's on fire, the door's on fire, we're trapped, what are we going to do? We got to make a move, help us, somebody save us. Yeah. And now we're like, no, it looks pretty good, man. He's beating not our 4th and 5th cornerbacks, he's beating our 1s and 2s consistently, and our 1s and 2s are having a good camp. Simi is doing the same thing. It's not just that one time he beat Diggs on a one-on-one and we're overblowing it. Like, Simi's repeatedly beating people in camp, in team drills, not just one-on-one. So I'm cool with it. I think the Cowboys actually got this one right.
It's kind of crazy at times. Obviously a little bit bigger for sure, but I see him make a play. I'm like, this reminds me of Miles Austin so much when I look at Simi at times. Yeah, I think they hit it right. And look, and we're talking about just a knock star, not to preclude them from, after they get through this thing with Denver with the joint practice and the preseason game, that they don't go out there and eventually add somebody. But I think in the moment in what they did worked. It just did. We got to see these guys, and they wouldn't have seen them. That's what they said. We talked about it, in one of our previous shows that Professor says you should definitely go watch. I said, I don't think they're going to add anybody to after the preseason game. I think I'm buying that they're wanting to see these guys work and see what happens to what they have before they make a move. And it worked. But I think the other side of it too is, and this is kind of, we talked about this in the space before, that everyone kept going back to 2018 when it was wide receiver by committee and people was kind of losing their minds and what was going on. They had to go make the trade for Amari Cooper and all those things. And the one thing I kept trying to tell people was like, yeah, but Dak was a much different quarterback then. Dak is a much different quarterback here in the year of 2022 than it was in 2018. And I think part of this thing that we're seeing from some of these receivers is the work that they did prior to camp, especially Simi and probably Tolbert as well, and what he's doing now with them in camp. And I think it just matters in transitions forward. The other side, too, is we talk about backup quarterbacks and what they have to be able to do so you can actually get progression and see from the wide receivers during camp. Y'all know where I'm at with Cooper Rush. And I was there last year with him. I think he's a very smart guy. I think if he wants to coach in this league at one point, he will coach in this league. The arm's just not there. But you upgraded the guy because it's not Ben DiNucci third now. You upgraded that position with Will Grier. And Will Grier's out here delivering some balls. The Vasher catch, the highlight, right? We've seen him deliver some balls to Simi. And he's giving these young guys opportunities as well because you have a livelier arm that's also getting them reps besides just Dak. So I think those all kind of matter together. But seeing them work out and where they are, and nobody here, for us to be clear, nobody here saying, all right, boom, done deal. The roster set at wide receiver. Not what we're saying. But just to be clear, we're not saying that. What we are saying is, for the most part, that them getting the experience and letting them get in there and get after it without adding another guy into the room, it seemed to pay off in the front office. As much as we want to be mad or different things about the offense line and what they're doing with some of that depth and where we don't like it, we have to turn around and be even keel here contextually, be like, hey, they got this right, and let's make sure that we highlight that they did get it right. I'm with you, though, Professor. The James Washington scenario is a conundrum. I don't know what they do. They could injury settlement him. They could IR him and let him roll off. I don't know what they'll do. I think we'll get a little bit clearer picture after this week with what they do with Denver and maybe where they want to be at with him. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think they're going to do with James? You think he's going to make it here for the whole year, or do you think they're going to cut bait and move on?
It's hard to say right now because just for those fans that don't remember the rules with IR, if they put him on injured reserve before week 1, if he does not before week 1, when the roster cutdowns happen prior to week 1, he's out for the entire season. He has to make the roster, then get put on IR to be eligible for return. So why that matters is if they do that, if they don't see enough for the rest of training camp or preseason, they're going to have to cut one of those receivers. So whether that's Simi, Houston, whoever that may be, they're going to have to release somebody, or a different positional group is going to be impacted by them keeping Washington on the roster if they don't see enough to make that move. If they see something in the next few weeks, I think they're going to do the IR for the season or injury settlement if they see enough from Simi or Noah or any combination of those two saying, no, we're good at wide receiver. We don't even really need him when he comes back. I don't know that he makes the roster anymore, which is interesting because that was a completely different conversation than what we were having prior. and not just us, all the YouTube channels, all of the media members, any Cowboys fan was probably assuming, yeah, he's definitely locked to make the roster. But we've seen enough now that it's not out of the realm of possibility that he won't be cut at the cutdown rate when they make the final 53, because they may not want to release somebody just to stash him for a few weeks if they don't need him when he comes back anyways. So it's kind of interesting that that's the conversation we're having right now.
Yeah, and Ultra bringing up here about Robert Pence is that dude, wide receiver coach, right? Hats off. You definitely clap it up for him and the work that he's put in with these guys and what they've done in Oxnard this far, for sure. No ifs or buts about it. My God, DMV's in the bill. What's going on, DMV? How you doing this evening, sir? Boom, throw it up there. But yes, Spoon. Yeah, what do you think, brother? I mean, this wide receiver core, you feeling comfortable now? Feeling a little bit better? I know we had our conversations and the nervousness and stuff.
I mean, like I said, I'm not too comfortable yet. I saw these guys scoring some touchdowns, making some plays, some good catches and things of that nature. You know, we want to make sure we have the right guys that's going to play on every Sunday and contribute. And that's just it. Simi Fioco, who's training up, I see him busy. I really want to see him go up against these Denver Broncos corners at the scrimmage and also at preseason. I want to see that. I want to see Dennis the Menace Houston. I mean, I named Dennis the Menace. That's his name. I want to see the hype. I want to see all the hype that we've been hearing about. You know, it's time to separate. You know, too many the conversations about who's gonna make it. We all by certain weeks should be all on the same page. Who's gonna make it, and who's not, just by watching the game and see what they're doing. And that's really just it. You know, and going back to that was a great question by PO about James Washington, because again, you have to think about those things, and I would think a injury settlement would definitely be it, because why carry him on the roster if you really got somebody who's really emerged? And I think in 3 weeks it's enough time for them to know what they're gonna do. Either they're gonna either somebody's gonna make it, or they decide, you know what, I think we may have to trade for somebody if that's still on the table and all. But I don't think he's here during the season.
Right. And Jeremy, I'm right here with Jeremy's comment. Says, I just need to see these guys in preseason games. Joint practices, too. Those are going to matter a lot as well. But, yeah, that's the next step here. Mission accomplished, and what you wanted to see them do, maybe even more so than what maybe we expected from them during their time in Oxnard. And moving forward, that's the next big step. When the lights come on and we're having these joint practices and we're in those preseason games, do they take the next step? And that's kind of where I've always been. I didn't think they would make a move until after they got through this joint practice and the preseason game, because that'll tell them, did what they see in Oxnard pay off in what you see here? And if they feel indifferent, then maybe see them make a move. But I'm happy for the guys. And look, if they walk through the door, it's even better for this team. You know, homegrown talent, and you got some young guys that are in the building, and see what you can do. And, you know, real quick, as we're talking about the semis, we're talking about the Noah Brown's cutting the weight and what he's doing and whatnot. We did talk about Vasher, you know, as you brought up in the group chat earlier today, was highlighting, and now he's kind of low lighting. Do we think Vasher's kind of slid down? Vasher on the hot seat now for this wide receiver core to y'all?
I'm going to say too soon. Oh, for me, too soon.
Okay. What do you think,
We'll have to see what he looks like when he's going against other teams, like you guys mentioned. Yeah. Denver is a great team for us to have joint practices against, because they have a PS2, they have a Justin Simmons, they have good defensive backs. So that's going to be a great opportunity for these wide receiver 4, 5, 6 candidates to step up, because it's been interesting to see how the wide receiver room has changed. Because a week ago, Vasher was the hype of the camp. And then the next couple of days, it was, hey, Houston's actually playing more first team reps than what we're seeing out of Vasher. Now that Dontario Drummond's back, he's played a lot of reps with the first team wide receivers. So it's kind of been interesting to see the way that they've juggled that room. I don't know. I don't know if Vasher's safe or not. I don't think if the season started today, he would make the roster. I don't believe that. Yes, he made a fantastic catch. Yes, he's shown progress from last year. I don't think he's shown enough to be in the top 5 or top 6 conversation. But that could all change if he has a couple big preseason moments and continues to show up in camp. Then we'll see. But as of today, no, I don't think Vasher makes the team.
Now, King Shadow here, with a question for Professor knows what he's talking about. So, if Gallup comes back and the roster is full, which bubble guy gets cut? Think Wright, Hill, or Watkins? I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like it's going to be somebody from the wide receiver room. So that's
Right?
where it
Yeah,
becomes
same.
interesting because then you're looking at, assuming Gallup comes back, we know that CD's safe, so you have a 1. We know Gallup's going to be on the roster, obviously, so that's your 2. We know Tolbert's there. Noah's at a big camp. I can't imagine they cut him, so he's 4. Then you have Simi, who's at a big camp, who's 5. So now that conversation is looking at Houston, Washington, Vasher. I would assume whoever that mix is who gets cut when Gallup's back. But if Gallup's healthy week 1, that also changes things too, because we've been looking at it as a 9 or 10 month return table, but we have seen other players recently recover sooner than that. Like Godwin, is back for the Bucks already, and it's been about 8 months. So there is a possibility that he could be there sooner. So it's a really intriguing room because we're looking at 2 different pieces right now. We're looking at Gallup's return and Washington's return. And
Right.
Gallup is the one that we're all assuming, yes, he's safe. Washington may not be safe anymore with the progression of the other team, of the other players in the team. So it's super interesting. Like this room, I'm trying to divvy up who's fitting where. In week 1, I'm assuming based on the way things are going that Noah's trending way up. Semi's trending pretty up. Not quite what Noah's done, but he's having a great camp. And then you look at the rest of the room, and there's guys that were intriguing, like Ty Freifogel guy I was interested in. I can't see any possibility he makes the roster right now. Dontario Drummond, a guy that's exciting. I can't imagine him making the roster. And when I was mentioning those wide receivers earlier, we didn't even talk about Turbin.
It's true. And I think he's
probably
here.
a lock to make the roster.
Yeah.
So
here.
there's a lot of different pieces, and maybe Turbin's not included in the wide receiver room the same way that Goodwin wasn't included in the defensive back room.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be super interesting. I don't think Wright will be cut since he was one of the guys mentioned. I would be absolutely shocked if he's cut. He's had a really good camp. They just spent a 3rd-round pick on him last year. I don't think that he's done anything to not warrant a roster spot, and he adds something different from the rest of the room. Because of his size. Because of his size and length profile, which is something that we know the DQ likes. So
Right.
I think Wright is safe. The other guys you mentioned, like Hill and Watkins, may not be as safe because Watkins is a guy that's a 1 tech, but not really a 1 tech. Can play 3 tech, but we have a lot of 3 techs. Can play 5 tech, but we have a lot of 3s that can play 5 tech. So Watkins is a guy I think makes the roster, but he's not necessarily a lock. And then you look at Hill, same thing with the 3 techs. Hill's had a pretty good camp so far, but I don't know where he fits in that 3 tech pecking order. So he may not be safe. So if I was answering that question, I think Watkins is probably the least safe of those 3. Hill is the least safe of those 3, followed by Watkins. I think Wright is absolutely safe. But to answer the question, I think Gallup's going to impact the wide receiver, not any other position.
The chat says, no way. Ultra says, Vasher's not making the team. Bob Hick, no, not making the team. Strong comments out here on Vasher says. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, for sure. And of course, going back to the injury with James Washington as well, kind of going back to what, Stephen and Jerry talked about, ability versus availability, right? And that's kind of been one of the big things they talked about, highlighted during this offseason. So he might run up against that. It is very, very intriguing, as you said, and what we're getting into here with it. And I definitely agree here with Ultra saying Vasher not making the team, especially over Simi. I think Simi's going to walk through the door. It feels that way. But again, we'll get a lot of these answers when it comes to this wide receiver room and what's going on. We'll get a lot of these answers here really soon. That's what's really great about what the stretch, whether we're into this offseason or this, training camp now. We're about to get some real clear-cut answers on these guys.
Can I throw one more thing before we move off the topic completely?
Sure.
So this is a question that I need to self-reflect on too because of the way that I've viewed these 2 players specifically. But I think it's interesting. Last year, Jabril Cox, 4th-round pick. All of Cowboys fans, along with a lot of NFL pundits, said absolute steal in round 4. Simi was a guy that Cowboys fans were stoked about getting in round 5. We were really excited about both players. Cox played 9 plays of defense last year. That's it.
Yeah. Got hurt.
Special teams guy before he got hurt.
Mm.
Simi didn't do much either last year.
Mm.
However, if you ask fans, Cox is somebody that there was a lock they're super excited about. It's going to start, going to be an impact player. And Simi was going to be cut 3 weeks ago. It's kind of an interesting dynamic if you think about it, the contrast there, because both were players fans were excited about. Neither player did anything, but Cox is the one before the Anthony Barr signing. Everyone's like, oh, he's definitely a top 3 linebacker in the room. He's going to start. He's going to do all this. And Simi, everybody was like, foregone conclusion, he's gone. He's cut. He's not even making the roster. Just kind of interesting to see how drastic things can change in a year. So, again, a guy like Big Bo, that's a completely different position group conversation. Fans were excited about, and now fans are like writing him off because we have a 5th-round pick now. So 1 round higher is definitely a lock instead of him. I just think it's kind of an interesting dynamic between Cox and Simi. What do you guys think there?
Go ahead, Spoon.
That is interesting. Listen, we know Cox can definitely be one of the cornerstones of this defense for a long time. And with Simi,
we know that, or we think that.
Ooh, P.O. got on the spot like that. You know what? We think
you
that.
said we know. That's
We think that, Professor. I think that. But he definitely can. With Simi Fiogo, I'm a big fan of him since Stanford. He, like I say, like Cal Yeoman said, he is trending up. I want to see some more. He does have some upside to him, and who knows. In the future, when Gap's contract runs out, we see where he's at the time. He has the physical tools to really become something in this league. He really, really does. You got the hands, you got the size, you got the speed. You just put it together, lock it in, and going. And that's just really it. I mean, I remember draft night when we drafted him, he got excited. A lot of us got so much excited about it. We got a real big 12 fast receiver. And let's be honest, a 4.3 and a 40, that's fast. And, with the highlights that we saw in camp so far against Trayvon Diggs and the other guys, yeah, he has that ability. And listen, let's be honest. It's one of, and Professor, he made a great point, put it on social media, that those type of drills are made for the offense to win. And they can't, but just to see what he can do, even when the ball is not even placed correctly, just with his hands, the things he can do when he gets up in the air, that's to me is encouraging, and that's what we want to see. Because in the game, not every pass is going to come to you the right way. We're going to need to do a Des Bryant. I'm going to make the best of it. Man, Look, listen, I give you one play. My favorite all-time Des Bryant highlight play was it didn't count as a touch because his hands was out of bounds, but it was against the New York Giants when he jumped up in the air and how he landed was right at the end zone. When you replay that catch, okay, now again, was the ball perfect? Not really, but again, that's how the game is. And a guy like Simi Fioku, that's what we want to see. Can he do it? We all think he can. But he gotta know he can and just put it out there. And I want to see that Saturday. I want to see that. I want us when we all in the chat sharing information, educating each other. I want us to get freaking so hyped up that we posting all over that Twitter explodes. Simi Fioco against this guy. Hey, I want to see Simi beat out Patrick Surtain if they ever have a matchup. I want to see that. I don't know if they're ever going to have that matchup. I want to see something like that. Can he do it? Of course. Listen, we saw what Cox did against the New York Giants last year when Eli tried to go for that touchdown.
Eli.
He blew him up. Eli. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Giants fan. I didn't mean troll. Daniel Jones. Excuse me. My bad. But I'm saying we see it. We see the talent there. Not a lot of these things you can teach on certain. The athleticism you cannot teach on a player. It's just
I got you
with it.
Right. Yeah, I think going back to the previous year, I think the big thing was just the linebacker room versus the wide receiver room, right? Mm-hmm. I think there was some of that when you talk about Fioku and we're talking about Cox, because a lot of people was out on LVE, always hurt, right? There was some people still on Jalen, but we got to a point in preseason, I was like, okay, no, it's a problem. And there's a lot of people out on Jalen. So the depth of the linebacker position is why, people are like, oh, we got Cox. Which, look, it was a great pick where you got him in the 4th. A lot of people were mad about the Nashawn Wright pick in round 3 instead of being Cox, And Jerry Jones came up, well, it doesn't matter where you got it if you got them both, right? So neither here nor there. But then you go and think, well, it was Gallup, it was Cooper, it was CeeDee Lamb, right? And, of course, we still had, our guy in the slot, oh, wow. Brain fart. But Miami now. Boise State.
Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson. Geez, Cedric Wilson. So Fioku was behind the 8 ball from the depth perspective for everybody else, for fans from the outside. So, whenever you're low or you're light in a particular position, the fans are going to gravitate towards that guy that got drafted. Like, oh my God, yes, we got him, so we're good now. And I think that kind of feeds back into the one tech, because what happened with the run defense, and from those two guys from that draft to what we're talking about now with the one tech in particular, because what happened the last game we played, well, they ran the ball all over us. And we kind of know, we talked about it ad nauseum. Once Brett Urban left last year, this run defense wasn't the same. So Quentin, since Bohanna didn't become the guy last year, now you have a Ridgeway here, and we need the one tech, right? And so now it's more about Ridgeway being the guy instead of maybe Bohanna. But I just think it's the idea of what the depth of the particular position is and what's valued more at the time is kind of what happens there with the fandoms and what they do.
No, that's
And
fair.
look, we
It's
do
totally
it too. Yeah.
It's fair. I just wanted to bring it up because it is just kind of interesting to look at the mindset of fans. And we talk about it with teams all the time, right? We look at draft picks specifically and say, I don't like this player here because of positional value. We do the exact same thing as fans, though, because that's what the conversation is now, saying linebacker's a bigger need. So we're more excited about the linebacker that's filling a hole than we would be at the wide receiver filling a hole, for the same reason, because linebacker's a bigger need right now amongst the fan base. So I just thought it was worth bringing up because both players were guys that fans were excited about. And then this year, fans are still really excited about one, but not so much the other. And then the last couple of weeks after we've seen what Simi's done, I think the conversation's changed, where now people are probably evening out a little bit with both guys, but still probably a little bit more higher on Cox just because of the positional value and what we expect him to do from potentially being a starter for the team.
Yeah. And, another interesting thing, too, talking about Cox, like early in camp, those are the flashes and the videos and stuff were happening. And then you kind of, I'm not saying he's being like the veteran disappeared, but all of a sudden not hearing as much about him. Of course, they are kind of working with him, but he had his hamstring or something. They kind of come back from the knee, right?
Yeah, swelling of his knee, but they're not concerned about it, but
they're managing.
I'd be concerned.
Right.
He's coming off a knee injury and has swelling to the knee. I don't know if it's the same knee, but it's a concern to me, but apparently the team's not worried about it.
Fair enough. And I know, shout out to Skywalker still, he got a chance to interview him and talk to him and said doesn't know if he'll get to go preseason. They got him on a snap count right now. So we'll just kind of wait and see what happens with him in that realm. Real quick, is the organ queued up? Is the organ okay this week? Is the organ ready this week?
Not right this second, but it will be if you give me like 20 seconds. I'll have it ready to go.
That's fine.
Because I know where to position it now.
Okay, yeah, that is awesome. Hey, Wrench Gang, get them out of here. Yeah, I see the love chat. Let's get the love chat up out of here. And I'm putting this on Stephen Watts. Stephen, I've watched you tonight. Nasty behavior, sir, tonight, and you in the chat.
Yeah,
sir.
I saw that. Bowing down, Steven, master, dominatrix, all that going on.
Stephen, I don't know what you got going over there, my guy, but man, you need to easy, fella.
We're good. Whenever you're ready.
All right. And Spoony. There you go. Rich Gang. Rich Gang got him up out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, we got the organ queued up. We got joint practice, right? We got a preseason game Saturday. We are finally about to go out here and hit somebody in a different colored jersey. It's a wonderful time of the year. And when you have a wonderful time of the year, you got to have a Spoony sermon. Spoony.
I didn't sleep last night too good. I did. I even got up around 2 a.m. and joined DJ Nix on Space. Very surprising. A lot of times, I'm one of the ones that tap out early. But I didn't tap out, I tapped in. Why was that? Why? Because of the nightmares that I have. The nightmares in the past when we lost to the 49ers. That's right. When we lost to the 49ers. That was a very bad evening for all Cowboy Nation. You slept, you drank too much, we was depressed. Now, the door's cracked open for the upcoming season. Okay? The treasure is inside that door. Starting this week, Cowboy Nation, we see blue and orange. The fans see blue and orange. But you players out there, you Dallas Cowboys players, you should see red. Nothing but red. I don't care if it's preseason. You knock every mother effer in front of you down. And you stare at them in the eyes. And you remind them who you're playing. You are playing the Dallas Cowboys, the stars of the NFL, America's team. And I talk about from the first team to the damn practice squad. Every moment, every minute, you make them pay the price. Russell Wilson, I love you, Russ. I love Ciara too. I love you. My wife heard me. She was all good. I love him. But guess what? You're my enemy this week. Sam, drafted in the second round. Russell Wilson, you see red. Neville Gallimore, you see red. Michael Parsons, you see red. Dak Prescott, you see red. Every mother effer with the star sees red. Understand that. We perfect, we conquer, we destroy. From the top to the bottom. Nobody left open, and we come back to practice and explore the great work we did and continue for the second week. No more will I lose sleep. No more will we shed tears. The only tears that we're going to be shedding is upon victory, and victory only. Cowboy fans, if you want to be educated, you want to be entertained, you follow your Cowboys content creators. I don't care which one. Anybody who puts the money out to share the content and give the love out to support, you share that, you enjoy it, you watch it, you support it. You don't go out there to ESPN. We don't need a guy who's trying to grow the headline still and throw out junk. We don't need no people with wigs on their head who can't keep it funky. Telling lies. Understand me? We don't need former football players who trading their jersey for suit and ties and become puppets. We need realism. Starting from Star Game, Pick Six Sports, where we intercept the news and we score with the news. Understand that. Go to everybody else, you follow them. Show that love, show that support, because together we're gonna march down. We're gonna march down when we end the playoffs and wreck everyone and then leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, we got the ushers coming down the middle here. They're going to pass the collection plate around. Go ahead and drop them donations and pay them tithes. Please and thank you. Shout out to our guy Spoony, man. It is time to get a little jazzed up, right? We get to go up here and get some practices going on. I don't need no organ. Cut the organ off for me. I'm good on that. That's for Spoony and Spoony only. But definitely time to go in here and hit these other guys in the mouth and get some things answered about this team and what's going on. About Stephen Watt says the power of Christ compels you. Indeed. Indeed. Programming alert. You already know the drill. Friday, we do the happy hour space at 7:30 p.m. Central. On the backside of that, we do the Freestyle Friday show at 9:30 p.m. Central. And we have a couple of great guests this week. We try to line it up and do really good, bring some good content to y'all. We have Tom Downey coming through. And y'all know what Tom Downey is, man. I can't wait to talk to him about chugging the Jack Daniels when he hit the 100K subs. Fun times to be had there. And, of course, we have No I, a.k.a. Mr. Fourth and Long, Jesse Holly. Will also be in the building with us and kicking with us on Friday as well. So make sure to tell a friend. Make sure you share the channel. And make sure, you're here and in the building. And, of course, as Professor always like to say, tell them they come up on Fridays and talk, man.
Yeah, we have the link right there. It's pinned. We make it super convenient for you. You don't have to download an app. You don't have to have any special microphone, any special camera. You can do it straight from your cell phone, laptop, whatever. Just click the link. It will prompt you to share video or not, share audio or not. Obviously, share audio so we can hear you. But you can ask us a question, ask our guest a question. You can just hang out with us. We've had people like our guy Tex Mayo. We've had Robert Roberts hang out for hours. We've had people jump in, spend 15 minutes and bounce. Either way, do want to give a shout out to DMV since he joined us last week. Thanks again for tuning in. DMV open invitation every Friday, any Friday. We'd love to have you back. Shane Carter's been with us 2 weeks in a row. So TC915 just nailed where I was going with this. I am super stoked to have Tom Downey on because Toxic Tom Downey burner account joins our shows regularly. So I'm excited to have the real Toxic Tom and the burner account version all at one time. It's going to be like the Dragon Ball Z fusion dance. So we don't even know what the final form is going to look like, but I'm ready.
No clue. Yeah, man, it's going to be a fun time. We've
been grinding, by the way, trying to get different guests lined up for you guys. I just want you to know we appreciate you guys tuning in and joining us and hanging out with us. So we're doing everything we can on the back end to continue to get different people on with us.
Yeah, it's nonstop work over here for us. Our guy Sam, and Sam's joined before. I think he fell asleep that one time.
Sleepy Sam.
Sleepy Sam says, "Damn, my shorty threw from the Cali this Friday. It's okay. You can watch. She can watch too. It's fine. Yeah,
sub watch. She's there.
Yeah, big facts. And the Wrench Squad. Shout out to our Wrench Squad, Mendoza and TC in the building. Appreciate all the work y'all do during the live streams when we're live, man, and getting them bots up out of here and handling stuff. And the Toxic Juice says this is even my final form. Professor O probably. Yeah. Oh man. With that being said, guys, as always, like, follow, sub, share, tell a friend, free 99 to tell a friend. Hope the rest of y'all's week is fantastic. Friday, Cowboys happy hour space, and then of course Freestyle Friday with Tom Downey and Jesse Holly coming through. And you never know who's going to show up. We've been going and just random people showed up and like, oh, here's Vach, he came through. Oh, here's our guy J Tuck, he slid through. So you just never know who's going to be here. So the Friday shows are a lot of fun, and we kind of take what we do in the spaces for those that have been in the spaces, and we kind of make it into the format over here and kind of piggyback it here in this realm. So definitely we want you to come up here and talk. Instead of doing an open call line, as he said, whether you want to share your video or not, off your phone or whatever, jump in here, ask a question, leave, or hang out for a while. We rotate and make it do what it do. Rest of your week, did you get the 11? You got all the play calls done, or your the 11 instead of the 8 on 8? You got them all done? I do,
now. Yeah. So I wasn't able to do any 12 personnel or bunch formation just because my team only has one practice to get this down. No, I'm team bunch, by the way. That's my thing.
I know. I was going to say, no bunch.
We only have one practice to get it right because we have the Jamboree, 2 teams back to back. We don't have any gap between the games, so it's going to be rough for just 11 players. So I'm trying to make it as easy to translate from what they've done to the new formation, and I had to go with a different formation than what I was hoping for. But yeah,
fair.
The playbooks were good to go. We have 5 plays out of 2 formations, and that's the best I can do with one day of practice. So these 7 and 8-year-olds are going to be out there grinding. So
I like it. I like it. Putting in the work. And
I ordered you know how Miami had the turnover chain?
Yeah.
So Spoonie saw them at the draft. Nix, I'm sure you've seen them. They sell these, they're like big plastic chain necklaces with a huge medallion emblem on it. Yeah. So I ordered one. His high school program is the East Paulding Raiders. So they look like the Las Vegas Raiders uniform-wise. So they have the same logo, all that. So I ordered a big Raiders chain, and each week we're going to nominate the practice player of the week and let them run through the banner, and they're going to be rocking that chain for the game.
Nice.
So the kids don't know about that yet, but the other coaches do.
Oh, they're going to be hyped. Oh, the kids are going to be super hyped. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're going to be super hyped. It's a good way to get the good practice out of them, too. I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there, working on the back end. And also, RIP, once again, Professor O was in Oxnard weeks before the Cowboys got out there. He is the last man standing in Oxnard, as y'all can see via his background right now.
I'm gonna pop that right behind me.
RIP. Back away from Oxnard and back on the other side. It is. Spoonie, rest of your week, brother. How you doing? You got anything lined up?
Oh, I'm stoked. I'm hyped. Listen, we got but Friday we have the scrimmage, and then we got the preseason gonna be live. I'm stoked. I'm ready to go. I'm hyped up. I want to see some news, some good news.
Yeah.
See some good highlights. I'm just hyped, man.
Yeah,
I'm in there.
Big facts. And
real quick, Spoonie, since you brought it up, let everyone in the chat know. For those that don't know, the game is going to be nationally televised. It's on NFL Network. Is that correct?
Yes, NFL Network.
Yes, NFL Network. Yes.
Was it 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central?
Yeah, 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. So that will be 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 Central. Right. And of course, once again, we will be live and broadcasting and live reacting to the game Saturday as well. So we got a lot of content this week. Obviously, y'all worked with us tonight. Friday, I know the drill, and then Saturday we'll be up here for the game. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody for rocking with us. Spread the word. Y'all have a great rest of your week, and we'll holler at y'all on Friday. If I can hit in, that is.